La 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 la. Oh, you're back. You caught me rifling around. You know, there once was a little boy named Aiden that wanted to be a chef when he grew up. He loved to mix batters, stir sauces, help his mom set the table, and, of course, lick the cookie dough off the spoon. I bet we can get his attention with a story about a special kitchen witch named Grandma McCutchin. In my hand now is one of her famous animal cookies. It smells so good, doesn't it? Oh, we've already established this, but I just wish I could send smells your way just this once. Anyhow, author K.M. Bennett has their tale performed by David S. Deere, Danielle McRae, J.V. Hampton-VanSant, Tal Minear, and Alexis Bristowe. The sound was cooked up and mixed together by Chris Burke. I don't know what your favorite cookie flavor is, but mine is pumpkin and spice.
When Hattie had asked Jamal and Elle what their favorite part of Halloween was, they had both said that it was the thrill of pretending to be something new. Well, Hattie knew a little something about that. So she told them,
if you want a real Halloween experience, you have to try the cookies at my Grandma McCutchin's house, but only if you can keep a secret.
So, after calling their parents to tell them where they were going, the children left the middle school together and headed for the remote country house where Grandma McCutchin lived. They marveled at the cluttered yard. Grandma McCutchin had a huge collection of concrete yard figurines. Jamal ran up to a garden bed filled with figurines and marigolds. The smell of wood and wet earth met his nostrils from the freshly churned mulch.
Look, it's a lion.
Jamal curled his lips up and snarled like the concrete statue.
Not just a lion. It's a whole family.
Elle added. They pointed to the nearby statues of a lioness and 2 cubs.
I never did think it made sense for all these critters to be hanging around with a lion family around,
Hattie said as she looked over the vast collection. There were over 50 statues of all kinds of animals, including a horse big enough to climb on.
Well,
said Jamal,
it's not like any of them are going to start moving anytime soon.
Elle climbed onto the back of the horse and looked into the horizon with their arm outstretched, a not-so-serious scowl on their face.
Quick, take my picture for Insta,
they said. They flipped their hair over to one side. Just as Hattie lifted the phone to take the picture, the door to the little white house opened.
Hattie, dear!
Grandma McCutchin exclaimed, opening her arms wide. She wore denim overalls and a soft floral print apron on top. Her gray hair was slicked back.
Hi, Gran,
Hattie said, walking up to the porch. She looked back at the other 2 kids in the yard.
I brought some friends.
She winked at her grandmother.
For the full cookie experience.
Grandma McCutchin's eyes twinkled as she regarded the other children.
I see. Come in, please. I have a new batch of my world-famous cookies almost ready.
Jamal and Hattie helped Elle climb off the concrete horse, and they stepped inside. A nutty, spiced aroma met their nostrils, and the children felt their stomachs growl. The kids were sent to sit on a dark green couch with a knitted blanket that resembled a giant doily.
You like my menagerie out front?
The old woman called out from the kitchen.
Oh, yes.
Elle and Jamal said in unison.
I think it's getting a little out of hand, though.
Hattie said.
You're a real hoarder, Grandma.
Oh, but that's the fun,
She replied.
More to choose from. Nobody would want a Halloween bag full of only Tootsie Rolls now, would they? No, you all want as many different kinds of candy as you can get.
After she finished bustling in the kitchen, Grandma McCutchin came out with a platter resting on her palms. She laid it on the table and stood back with her hands on her hips. smiling with the pride of a job well done. On the orange platter was an assortment of at least 50 cookies. Each one was in the shape of a different animal, and each had bright-colored icing to fill in the details of feathers, fur, or teeth.
What kind of cookies are they?
Said Jamal. His eyes were wide with amazement.
Oh, you know, pumpkin and spice.
Grandma McCutchin said. Jamal and Elle looked at each other skeptically.
Do you mean pumpkin spice?
Elle said. Grandma shook her head.
No, dear. Pumpkin and spice.
She lingered on the word spice.
Don't worry.
Hattie added.
They are 100% allergen-free.
She nodded her head toward Elle.
They're allergic to eggs.
She explained.
But you don't need to worry about these cookies.
At this, Jamal and Elle shrugged, and each chose a cookie. Jamal picked a lion cub, while Elle picked a horse that looked almost identical to the concrete one from the front yard. Hattie lowered her voice almost to a whisper.
Okay, folks. Whatever happens here, don't worry. It goes away after a few minutes, so don't be scared.
Jamal and Elle stared at their cookies, now looking more nauseous rather than hungry.
Why would we be scared?
Jamal asked. Nobody answered. Instead, Grandma McCutchin pulled one last cookie out of her apron.
I know this one's your favorite,
She said, handing it to Hattie. It was a bird with smooth white icing on top. She also produced a little tomato-shaped kitchen timer.
You'll have 20 minutes.
She said.
Have fun.
On the count of 3.
Hattie said with a grin.
3,
Wait a second. I'm not sure.
Elle tried to say.
2,
This seems iffy.
Jamal added.
1.
Hattie said, and they all bit into their cookies. They all chewed for a moment, and then laughed at each other's nervousness. What had they been so worried about? Suddenly, the room seemed to spin for all three of them. Jamal and Elle fell forward, as if to crawl. Their bodies began to grow larger. Jamal's arms grew a honey-colored fur, while Elle struggled to find an open space large enough for their lengthening body. Their eyes became huge with shock. Hattie just raised her arms into the air with angelic calm as they turned into wings, and their children's clothes were transformed with them, changing size to match their new animal bodies. When it was all over, Hattie was a bird in a dress, Jamal was a lion in cargo pants, and Elle was a horse in a yellow jacket and matching pants. Whatever fear had overcome them earlier had disappeared when they took their animal forms. The three animals frolicked in the living room until Elle accidentally kicked over a lamp. Grandma McCutchin came in to check on things and opened the front door so they could play outside. Elle whinnied and charged out into the yard, while Jamal pounced off the porch and into a pile of leaves. In a flurry of wings, Hattie breezed out into the open air and swooped down toward her friends. They played all sorts of games that they'd played dozens of times before. Keep away, hide and seek, and freeze tag, but with the added element of their new animal bodies. The games were more challenging this way, more fun and surprising. After a time, a faint ringing met their animal ears, and their bodies and clothes again began to change shape. When they'd returned to their human bodies, with their clothes reshaped and no worse for the wear, they stared at each other in amazement. Grandma McCutchin emerged from the house, holding the kitchen timer.
Well, my dears,
She said.
does anyone want seconds?
No thanks, Grandma.
Hattie answered for all of them.
It's getting late. We don't want their parents to be worried.
But maybe we can stop by on Halloween night?
Elle asked hopefully.
Yeah, can we please?
Said Jamal.
Well, of course.
The old woman said, nodding her head.
But why on Halloween?
Isn't it obvious? They've both just found the perfect Halloween costumes.
Said Hattie.
Hmm.